I never thought working the night shift at Costco would be anything but dull. The idea of walking through endless aisles of bulk goods, restocking shelves, and sweeping floors seemed like easy money. I needed the job, and the pay was decent. But what I didn't know, what no one had told me, was that this Costco had rules. Not just your usual corporate policies, but strange, eerie rules that had nothing to do with inventory or customer service. Rules that, if broken, could cost more than just your job. When I first arrived for my shift, the store was already empty. It was just past midnight, and the bright fluorescent lights buzzed softly overhead. My supervisor, a gaunt, middle-aged man named Rick, greeted me with a look that was more weary than welcoming. His eyes darted around the vast, empty space as if checking for something unseen. "You're new, right?" Rick asked, his voice hushed. "Name?" "Ethan," I replied, shifting uncomfortably. "Ethan Carter." Rick nodded and handed me a laminated sheet of paper. "Read this carefully," he said, his tone serious. "These are the rules. Follow them. No exceptions." I glanced down at the sheet. There were 7 rules, all typed in bold. Never, under any circumstance, acknowledge the man in the black hoodie if you see him in the frozen food section. Keep your eyes forward and continue working. If you hear knocking from inside one of the storage freezers, do not open it. No matter how desperate it sounds. The intercom may turn on by itself. If it plays static, you must immediately cover your ears until it stops. At exactly 3:15 a.m., you will hear a woman whisper your name. Do not respond. Do not look around. If you find a cart abandoned in aisle 6 filled only with raw meat, leave it alone and report it to Rick. Should the overhead lights flicker 3 times in a row, take cover behind the nearest counter and remain silent until they stabilize. Under no circumstance should you attempt to leave through the emergency exits between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. If someone is knocking from the outside, ignore it. I let out a small, nervous laugh. "Is this a joke?" Rick's face remained stern. "Do I look like I'm joking?" I swallowed hard and shook my head. "Good," he said, clapping a hand on my shoulder. "Now, let's get started." The next night, I hesitated before stepping into the store. The previous shift had left me shaken, but I needed the money. I told myself it was just my imagination, just a series of weird coincidences. But deep down, I knew better. Rick was waiting for me inside. "Glad you came back," he said, though there was no relief in his voice. "Means you're smart enough to follow the rules." I swallowed hard and nodded. As my shift began, I kept my head down, determined to get through the night without incident. But at 2:45 a.m., I found it. The cart. It sat abandoned in aisle 6, filled to the brim with raw meat. The packages were torn open, the flesh inside looking disturbingly fresh. And then I heard it. A low, guttural growl coming from behind me. The growl sent a shiver through my entire body. It was deep, unnatural, almost inhuman. I froze, my hands gripping the metal handle of the cart as my breath hitched in my throat. Slowly, I turned my head. What I saw made my stomach drop. A pair of glowing yellow eyes peered at me from the far end of the aisle, just above the towering shelves of bulk goods. They blinked slowly, studying me with an unsettling patience. The rest of its form was hidden in the shadows, but I could see the outline of something wrong. Its limbs were too long, its movements too fluid, like it wasn't entirely solid. My instincts screamed at me to run, but I remembered the rules. I hadn't broken any, not yet. Slowly, I backed away, keeping my gaze low but my peripheral vision sharp. The thing shifted, taking a step toward me. A slow, deliberate movement. The growl rumbled again, this time vibrating through my chest. That's when I heard footsteps, fast, urgent. Rick appeared at the end of the aisle, his face tight with urgency. "Move," he hissed. I didn't need to be told twice. Rick grabbed my wrist and yanked me into the back storage room, slamming the door behind us. He locked it, breathing hard, and pressed his ear against the metal door. Silence. "What the hell was that?" I gasped, my heart pounding. Rick gave me a sharp look. "Something you don't want to meet up close." I shuddered. "But, the rules." "You followed them," Rick said, cutting me off. "That's why you're still breathing." I looked around. The storage room was dimly lit, lined with shelves stacked high with unopened boxes. The air was thick with the scent of cardboard and something else, something metallic. Blood. Rick noticed my expression and sighed. "Come on," he muttered, leading me deeper into the storage room. "There's something you need to see." At the far end of the room, behind stacks of old merchandise, was a door I hadn't noticed before. Rick hesitated before unlocking it, his hand steady despite the tension in his jaw. He pushed the door open, and I nearly gagged. The small, windowless room was filled with carts identical to the one I'd seen in aisle 6. Each was loaded with raw meat, but this meat wasn't from any animal I could recognize. The cuts were wrong. Some looked almost human. I stumbled back. What is this?" Rick closed the door, locking it again. "You don't ask questions," he said, his voice low. "You just do the job, follow the rules, and don't get killed." I felt my stomach churn. "You knew that thing was in the aisles?" Rick exhaled, rubbing a hand over his face. "Yeah. And if you hadn't found that cart, it would have found you." I didn't know what to say. My mind was racing, trying to piece everything together, but none of it made sense. Rick clapped a hand on my shoulder, his grip firm. "Your shift isn't over yet. Get back to work." I stared at him. "You expect me to just go back out there?" Rick's expression hardened. "You want to live? Then you do what you're told." I swallowed my fear and nodded. Whatever this place was, whatever was lurking in the aisles, I wasn't ready to die finding out. I stepped out of the storage room, back into the cold, empty aisles of Costco, knowing one thing for certain. This job was going to kill me. I didn't sleep after that shift. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those glowing yellow eyes watching me from the darkness. But I knew I had to go back. I had to get answers. Rick was waiting for me at the store's entrance. This time, he didn't even bother with small talk. "Follow me," he said. He led me past the storage room, deeper into the back area of the store where employees were never supposed to go. The walls were lined with ancient, rusted lockers, some of them dented as if something had tried to break out. Rick stopped in front of a door marked "Do Not Enter." He pulled out a key and unlocked it, revealing a staircase leading down into darkness. "This place was never meant to be a Costco," Rick murmured. "Before it was a store, it was something else. Something worse." As we descended, the air grew colder. The sound of our footsteps echoed eerily. At the bottom of the stairs, we entered a cavernous basement filled with old wooden crates and decayed shelving. And then, in the center of the room, I saw it. A massive, writhing mass of shadow and flesh, shifting and twisting as if it were alive. The yellow eyes I had seen in the aisles blinked from within its form. It pulsed, and a wave of nausea hit me. "This thing," Rick said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's been here for decades. Maybe centuries. The store was built around it." I could barely breathe. "What does it want?" Rick gave me a grim look. "It feeds." The realization hit me like a truck. The carts of raw meat. The rules. The strange occurrences. It was all a system. A balance. The employees followed the rules to keep it satiated. To keep it from getting hungry enough to hunt us instead. And then the lights flickered. Rick's face paled. "We need to go. Now." A deep, guttural growl rumbled through the basement, shaking the walls. The mass of shadows began to shift, moving toward us with horrifying speed. We sprinted up the stairs, slamming the door shut behind us. My heart was hammering as Rick locked it. "You wanted the truth," he panted. "Now you have it." I swallowed hard. I had to make a decision. Stay and keep feeding the thing. Or break the rules and run. And I wasn't sure which was worse.